Shalom, everybody, and welcome to the Yishai Fleisher Show, broadcasting live from Judea to the world. You're a part of it, wherever you are. Shalom, and welcome to Malkah Fleisher.
Hello there. Happy Tani to Esther.
That's right. Today's the Fast of Esther, which means that we are in the lane of Purim right now. Very special holiday. I must admit that I'm not as prepared for Purim as I would like this year, which is a bummer.
Yeah.
A bummer, maybe.
Yeah. Well, I think a lot of us don't have the intellectual and emotional bandwidth this year that we have some other years.
I don't know. I can't project my life onto other people, but you're right that there's the war and other things, and it's just been very busy. But we got to get into it. I mean, the good news is that there's a lot of news that makes you realize that it is Purim out there. Okay, for example, the Palestinian Authority recently gave up its arms and handed them into the Israeli government, and instead took a lot of copies of Rav Kook's, what's called the White Shas, which is the big set of Rav Kook learning, and that's the reason that happened is because they started realizing what a pointless task it is to try to take the Jewish land away, and they realized that, and they thought to themselves, how could it be that this people are so tenacious, and that Allah should bring the Jewish people back from 2,000 years of exile into their land, and that they've never been able to defeat us. They have realized, they had a realization, the PA did, that there's no way that the Jewish people could be coming back home if it wasn't for Allah's wills and miracles. And therefore, because they also heard me mention to them that I said to them that you have to do Allah's will, and look at Allah's will as for the Jewish people to come back home. So they have given up their weapons, and they're now becoming they're going to become not Jews, actually. Interesting. They're not interested in converting. They're actually interested in staying Arabs in a resident alien style Noahide type thing. But they actually want to stay here because they know this is what their statements they put out is that because they know that they are good, what's called in Hebrew shiputznikim, okay, i.e. good what's it called, builders and fixers. And what's it called, handyman and all that kind of thing. They want to help Israel continue to thrive and build, and therefore they want to stay here as resident aliens in order to help the Jewish land be built and furthered. So I think that that's an amazing thing that the Palestinian Authority has decided. They're actually calling it now on the Judean Authority, and they are interested in helping also manage all the rowdy but now converted handymen that we have in the region. Another interesting subset of that is that many of the weapons that they handed back seem to have been some kind of metal work was done onto them as though they were trying to beat them into plowshares. And so these weapons are now kind of useless because of this plowshare effort, which is very admirable and very biblical. Be that as it may, amazing news out of the PA. The Biden administration also responded to this communique from the PA saying, we don't know what you're talking about. So they're just a little bit confused out there in America, but here in Israel, things are changing for the better. A subset of that is that there's also some terrorists left, but they have been beheaded by the PA, and now they are being displayed on a tree here in the land of Israel. So just in time for Purim, amazing stuff is happening. Great news.
Wow.
Yeah.
This hunger-induced fantasy monologue has been brought to you by the holiday of Purim.
That's right.
Congratulations to you, Yishai, for allowing your hunger to take you all the way into total nutty pants.
Well, there's many other things that take me into nutty pants, and it's and there's many good reasons. But I'll tell you one reason that I just got to be a little bit silly, other than Purim, is that my friend Rivka wrote to me from a friend stuck in the UK. She wrote, just got the details. She goes, oh, sorry,
blah, 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 etc., etc.
If you see Yishai Fleisher, tell him a lone Jew stuck in the Galut is grateful for his excellent podcast.
Aw, that's nice.
All right, so that's awesome. See?
There you go, Yishai.
And then before pre-show, you started telling me how all the news is so
There's a little bit
yucky
of darkness
/ mucky.
in the news.
Right, so I'm like, no, it's Purim.
Yeah, it can all...
V'nahafochu.
Oh, nice.
V'nahafochu. Ay, ay, ay. Ad shishletu ha-Yehudim heima besonehem. That's what Purim's about, is when the Jews turn it all around. Purim is also known as the Pac-Man holiday. The Pac-Man holiday. That's
Why?
right.
Because you pack up a lot of Mishlach Manot?
Maybe.
Did you give our Matanot Le'Evyonim to the rabbi, by the way?
It is done.
Nice.
It is done. I saw him and I gave it to him and he's like, I got it. I got you.
Okay.
But it's the Pac-Man holiday because it's the Nahafochu. You're being chased by your enemies. I don't remember what the Pac-Man music is. I could do the Mario.
I don't know. All I got is Mario, yeah.
Yeah. So in Pac-Man, you're being chased by these ghouls, which is what the Jewish people...
Yeah, I really always hated that.
And then you eat the thing, which is Purim juice.
Like the little cherries?
The little cherry thing. And then, no, it's the big ball. And then you just turn around and eat your enemies. So it's the Nahafochu holiday, when the
nice.
hunted becomes the hunter.
Huh.
Mm-hmm, that's right. So
okie doke.
It's the Pac-Man holiday. Purim, the Pac-Man holiday. And I would dress up as Pac-Man and go out there and eat my enemies. That's what I would
thought
like
about
to do.
being emojis, but I didn't have the energy to put into making big yellow
Well,
costumes.
I have a very special costume for this holiday, but I shall not be revealing it to you. Not just yet, anyway. You shall see it on social media, but not beforehand. That's for sure. So yeah, Malkah, that's the good news. Also, lots of Jewish babies continue to be born in the land of Israel. And there shall be and people are old men are strolling with grandchildren, with granddaughters in the streets of Jerusalem, and prophecies are being fulfilled. So that's all that I can really say about that, Malkah. That's basically it.
What's your favorite thing about Purim, Yishai? Because I was just about to talk about the news, but I don't care.
Yeah, just forget it. My favorite thing about Purim. I don't know. Right now, I'm hungry, so sometimes they give good mishloach manot. No, I like a little hummus. Somebody makes.
Yeah, a little homemade.
I like when somebody makes a little lechuch.
Oh yeah.
You know what I'm talking about?
Well, we don't live in such a Taimani neighborhood.
No, every year somebody sends us one, and I have it every year. I love that stuff. It's good.
I used to put a lot of effort into my mishloach manot. A lot. One year I made sandwiches with 2 salads. One year I made lentil soup with soup almonds and challah rolls. That year, I put like half of them in containers, and the other half I left in the pot. And I was like, I'll do this tomorrow. And then my whole pot went bad, like full on with bubbles.
That's right.
That was a nightmare.
I remember that.
So I've started putting a little bit less effort into my mishloach manot. And I've tried to increase my amount of matanot le'evyonim, a little bit more money for the people who really need it, a little less snacks for my neighbors.
Malkah, there's a story right now that I was sent by my good friend Eric, coming out of the Daily Wire. It is a real story, but it reminds me also of Nafochu. Basically, internal documents that have been sent out to the American intelligence community they suggest that it'd be better to avoid problematic phrases when talking about Islamic terrorism, like jihadism.
What does that mean?
Well, when you talk about, you don't want to offend. That's basically it. You really don't want to
offend the people who are doing the terrorism, or the people who are not doing the terrorism.
So basically, the article is about one of our goals. In this memorandum says disentangling Islam from words and phrases used to discuss terrorism and extremist violence, writes the author of this thing, and the article declares that it tries to remove certain phrases to identify international terrorism threats that are harmful to Muslim Americans.
Okay, like what?
Like jihadism, Islamic extremism, Sunni Shia extremism, radical Islam.
So what are you supposed to say? What do you say?
The point, no.
But what do you say though? You have to have a thing to switch it out.
You can just say radical elements. I don't know what they suggest.
But can you say that they're?
Here's the point. Somebody out there is trying to tell us that don't say that these people are thinking these thoughts. You don't want to say that Muslim Americans have jihadist thoughts. You don't want to say, for example, that Palestinians have these thoughts. And yet another poll came out today. Yet again, another poll came out today saying that 75% of the so-called Palestinians, in quote marks, I say that.
It's 72. No, 71. 71. I'm looking at it now.
Oh, it's getting better all the time.
Yeah, the Palestinian Center for Policy and Survey Research put out a poll. 71% of people who self-identify as Palestinians in Gaza, Judea, and Samaria think that the October 7th massacres, in which 1,200 people were killed in all kinds of horrific fashions and 253 other people were simply stolen and taken to Gaza, was correct. It was a good move.
Right.
71% think it's a good move. Here's something interesting, and I want to analyze this, but it's not going to come out nice. Okay? It says in Judea and Samaria, the 71% figure is down from 82% in December. Okay? However, in Gaza, it is seriously up. Mm-hmm. In Gaza, remember all those videos of buildings being like boom, crumble, 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 and all these people like being taken into the hospital and all kinds of just the worst scenes that you can imagine that breaks everybody's hearts. 57% of people in December from Gaza who were polled thought that it was a good move. That was, what is that? So we're in March. That was January, December, the end of December. Now it's 71%, meaning to say, since then, they've actually been like, you know what? Actually, it was a bunch of people went, you know what? It was the right move.
Right.
I wasn't so happy about it, but now I am. Here's why. Here's the Malkah analysis. Okay. The Malkah analysis is that 3 months ago in December, it was a lot of ba-boom, 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 killing terrorists, killing terrorists, killing terrorists. Now, northern Gaza, which we captured, we basically reopened to Gazans to go back inside. You know this, what's it called? Shifa Hospital? What was it called? Shifa Hospital. We just like did a whole thing there. A Jewish boy was killed there fighting. We killed like some dozens of terrorists there. You heard about this week? We had captured that already. We had already gone into Shifa Hospital.
I don't know if
we went out and we came back. We had to come back inside because we let it go, and terrorists set up shop there immediately afterwards.
Not exactly correct, Malkah. I just want you to know that there was a trap that was set by the Israeli army in the Shifa Hospital.
Oh, you think?
I know.
Oh, so it was on purpose.
There was an element of it which was on purpose.
Okay, fair enough.
And they got a lot of terrorists through this thing.
Right, they did get a lot of terrorists.
And it was like they like basically did what's called a hatayah. They did a little trick.
Deception.
Yeah, deception.
Okay, I stand corrected. But I do want to say that I believe that the reason that it was 57% in December and it's gone up 14% since then is because Israel has really relaxed. There hasn't been a lot of like very widespread fighting. There hasn't been a lot of destruction. People are in tents. They're getting their humanitarian aid sold to them from their local guy who stole it and is selling it to them. And their life has gone to like some semblance of normalcy. They have water, they have food, they have a place to sleep that they go to regularly. Everyone's kind of hunkered down in their place and they know where they are. They know where their cousin is. Everyone's set. And so the second we take our foot off the gas, it's like, you know what? That thing that we went through, it wasn't like, dear God, we have to, this was the worst thing that ever happened. This was definitely, if anyone asked me in a poll whether this action of going into Israel on a pretty day in October, going into people's houses and doing horrific acts to them and taking them hostage to Gaza was a good idea, I'm going to say no to that. That was a bad idea. But today they're like, you know what? That was a good idea.
Well, let's separate out two important elements, Malkah.
Okay.
One is the question of, do Gazans and Arabs that self-identify as so-called Palestinians, are they okay with those acts?
Okay.
And the answer is mostly yes. Mostly yes. That's obvious. And that's because they're willing to make tribal warfare against Israel. And so they don't have a problem with the very acts.
Okay.
The whole thing, all the bad stuff.
Mm-hmm.
The question is only whether they calculate whether those things were worth it or not. Meaning to say, they don't have a problem with the horrific, inhumane acts.
All right.
What they have a problem with is, was it worth it?
So what you're saying is they think it's not worth it?
I think that what you're pointing out is when we relax, they're like, "Oh, it was worth it."
Right. So I just want to.
But when do they think there was a bad idea? It's not that they're like, "I am disgusted with those inhumane acts in my name." No, that never happens. That one never happens. The one thing that does happen is like, all right, so we did these inhumane acts, but it looks like we got our butt kicked all over the place.
Not worth it.
It was not worth it. We got nothing. We lost land. We lost people. The whole thing was just a horrific nightmare. But you have to provide that service. You have to make it that they're like, wow, whoever's left, that is,
right,
is like that
was not the right move.
That was not the right move. Like Israel is here to stay, and you can't defeat them, and we got to be just really, we really have to accept the fact that they're here because we obviously cannot move them.
Okay, so let's keep going on the poll. Asked who they would hope to see in charge of the Gaza Strip at the end of Israel's war with Hamas, 52% of respondents in Gaza said they hope to see Hamas return to rule. If that's democracy, by the way, they won the election.
Ding, ding, ding.
52%. Okay.
Nice.
Up from 38% in December.
Allahu Akbar.
Again.
Yeah.
In December, everyone was like, these people ruined our lives. Now they're like, okay, everything's okay. It's not so bad. Yeah. We're still alive.
Yeah, and look,
I got humanitarian aid.
And
not so bad.
We got to really hurt the Israelis. Right?
Among those in Judea and Samaria, 64% think Hamas should run post-war Gaza. So really popular in Judea and Samaria. That is a landslide.
I.e. right here.
It happens to be down from 75% in December. So It's interesting to see how the different populations are reacting to this lull in fighting. But basically, the main takeaway is that all these group of people think that Hamas is great and they want to keep going.
That's right.
Right? They want to keep going with these same people. Everyone hates, in a nutshell, everyone hates Mahmoud Abbas.
Why does everybody hate me? What have I done to anybody except for move it forward? I feel bad for him. He's been a good terrorist all this time. You know what I mean? And not only that, he really funds the whole Hamas. All the Hamas terrorists get their pensions. He doesn't
get it from him. He gets most of the money that they get him from. How do you think Mahmoud Abbas is so wealthy?
No, but he's not even close to as wealthy as Hamas terrorists.
Okay, but he's doing all right,
Yeah, he's got like
$100 million in the bank.
Yeah,
he's got a retirement plan.
That's right. He's got a retirement plan. All right, Malkah. Well, let's have a little bit of fun. I was being interviewed by a lady named Holly Williams. She's a famous CBS correspondent, and she interviewed me in Efrat, and I recorded that interview. And here is most of the interview that I did with her here in beautiful Judea, and answering her tough questions. So it's also on my YouTube page, which is doing well, which is a lot of fun. So that's Yishai Fleisher TV. But in any case, please join me with Holly Williams of CBS and answering her questions. Here we go.
Many people refer to this area as the West Bank, but you refer to it as Judea and Samaria.
Right.
Why is it so important for many Jewish people to live in this area?
Jihadists have no right. And this is a region where you can't be a sucker. You can't be a sucker. You can't be like, oh, the international community this and human rights that. A strong Israel, a strong Jewish state, surrounded by Arab countries that are strong and on their land, working in cooperation for a better region.
So first question, Rabbi. Many people refer to this area as the West Bank, but you refer to it as Judea and Samaria.
Right.
Why is it so important for many Jewish people to live in this area?
Well, first thing, the reference is important itself. Words are important today. Words put a title on something, and then you know how to react to it. If you say West Bank, what you really mean is it's somehow ex parte, not part of Israel, and illegitimate in some way or belonging to somebody else. And we don't like that because we think it's the heart of legitimacy, the heartland of the Jewish people. And you're right now sitting in a place that for the last 3,000 years was called Judea. The tribe of Judah lived here in the Persian Empire. They called this Yehud Medinta, the Jewish state, but Judea was this region. And so this has been known as Judea forever and ever. And I think we should be very proud of that name. That's our heritage. I don't think anybody should want to erase that amazing heritage. You know, this is our third Commonwealth here. It's an important piece of information. It's not often said enough by the state of Israel, but it should be said, this is our third Commonwealth, our third time being here. We're here 3,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago. We lost because of colonialism, Roman colonialism, Byzantine colonialism, Islamic colonialism, Crusader colonialism, Mamluk colonialism, Turkish colonialism, British colonialism, Jordanian colonialism. We lost our land to all kinds of folks, and we're back. It's actually pretty awesome. We think of it as one of the most exciting times in Jewish history to be back living in these places. So we're very excited about it. We want it to be called the name that it's supposed to be, which is Judea.
You're saying not only do Jewish people belong here, but this entire region, which some people call the West Bank, to your mind, is part of Israel.
I'll just tighten that by saying it's the heart of Israel. This is the area that if our forefathers and mothers were dreaming of coming back to the Holy Land, to the land of Israel, they were thinking of these places. You're sitting right now, Holly, in Efrat. Efrat is the sister city of Bethlehem. Bethlehem is Beit Lechem. That's where the book of Ruth was written. That's where King David pranced about as a child and wrote the Psalms later on. This is the heart of it. This is where we're really, really, really from. Our very name is associated. The names of these places, like Beit Lechem, means the house of bread. This is where Boaz and Ruth met here in these fields right here. So it's extremely, it's really part of our DNA. And I think a lot of times when people don't understand that, they somehow think that we're somehow these white colonialist interlopers. And nothing could be further than the truth. We are Middle East people. We were kicked out of this land. We're back. We're really a decolonialization project. And so this is really the heart of our story.
Many people regard the settlements as illegal under international law. How do you respond to that?
Well, I went to law school and studied these things. I think it's actually pretty simple. Not only are settlements not illegal, but again, as I said before, this is the heartland of our peoplehood, and the world recognized, not granted, recognized our rights here in 1917 Balfour Declaration, 1920 San Remo Accords, 1922 Mandate for Palestine, i.e. mandate for a Jewish Palestine, that was signed on by all the countries of the League of Nations. That's really where we have international law rights. We have far superior international law rights than almost any other country in the world on a piece of land. We are the essential indigenous. I call us the original aboriginals. Okay? We are the originals of this place. We have every right to be in this land. We have every right to live here. We've also purchased a lot of land here, purchased it from absent Arab landowners. We also won it in defensive wars, which is an international law principle. When a war is made on you and you push back your enemy, you hold on to a piece of land, you have a right to it. And we have many, many sources of rights, including the recognition of our history here, our indigeneity by the international community. So we have many sources of rights, but the bottom line is we know it, and if other people don't know it, that's their problem. We know that we're from here. We know this is our land. We know it's nobody else's land.
In this region, which you call Judea and Samaria and other people refer to as the West Bank, there's been an uptick in violent clashes between settlers and Palestinians since the October 7th attacks. What do you think the cause of that is?
I think you said it in the question. The October 7th attacks was a massive jihad onslaught onto the communities surrounding Gaza. And we have here, sadly, Arabs who have succumbed to the Palestinian narrative, have succumbed to the idea that they have a right to forcibly murder and destroy Jews in order to get what they want, which is us off of this land. And it's a bullying tactic. It's a jihadist tactic. And so that's what the source of the clash is. Just today, as we're filming this morning, there were men and women and children standing at a bus stop next to Ma'ale Adumim. They were mowed down by jihadists. Now, the jihadists are not looking for rights, and they're not looking for equalities, and they're not looking for a piece of land to live side by side next to Israel. They're looking to destroy Israel. That's what they say. That's what their jihadist propaganda says. That's what their maps say. That's what they do in all their videos. We know what Hamas stands for. They stand for jihadism. They stand for suppression and supersessionism. And so they want this land because it bothers them that we're here on what they think of as formerly Islamic lands. And so it's a religious war. And that's what's happening here. So, okay, it's a Middle East, it's a hot area, and you push against us, we're going to push back.
So to your mind, it's it's never the fault of Jewish settlers when there are violent clashes. It's always the fault of the Palestinians.
I think the word fault is a very Western type of word. Whose fault is it? Bottom line is we have a land conflict. We have a land conflict. And so there's tensions. It's a tense place. We have a land conflict. We have two different ethnic groups vying for the same piece of land. So one day it's this and one day it's that. But the bottom line, we have a conflict over whose land it is and who's going to control it. And so that causes friction and tension.
How should that conflict be resolved in this area?
Well, if you look at the map of the Middle East, you'll see that there are 400 million Arabs living on 22 Arab states, and then many other Muslim states that are very big. And then you have a tiny armed ethnic minority called Israel. It's a tiny piece of land within the broader Arab world and Muslim world. And so we think that the pathway to peace is very simple, which is a strong Israel, a strong, small Israel, Jewish state, surrounded by Arab countries that are strong and on their land, working in cooperation for a better region. It's not to cut half of Israel up and then wait for the rest to be taken over by the jihadist hordes. Sometimes when I talk to people, especially Asian people, I say to them, what is Taiwan's problem? All you have to do is give half of Taiwan, a tiny little island next to giant China. Just cut up half of Taiwan, give it to China, there'll be peace. And everybody laughs because it's so absurd. It's such an absurd statement. We all understand that giant China wants to eat up tiny Taiwan. So too Israel. There's a giant Arab and Muslim world, a chunk of which is jihadist. They want to swallow us up, and they want to do it in pieces because they think they'll get it in pieces with the help of the international community. And so we stand against that. We stand against cutting up this land. We stand against the Palestine on our land, and we're going to push back on them. We will forever push back on them and hold on and push for our rights.
Does that mean that you feel that the best solution would be for all Palestinians to leave the Gaza Strip and leave the West Bank and move to other majority Arab states?
Jihadists have no right in this land.
What about
jihadists
who are not jihadists?
Exactly. Jihadists who hate Israel and want to destroy it have no rights to be in this land or near it on its borders. Pro-Israel, non-jihadist Arabs who want to live and succeed here, we say, ahlan wa sahlan, mabruk, welcome. We say, welcome to this land, absolutely. And we'll figure out ways to make everybody have upward mobility and success. But the jihadists, which is what we're fighting, they got to go. And decent people who want to live in decency and with upward mobility and success, of course, welcome. We have no problem with those people. Look at the Druze community. Look how well they're faring in Israel. Look at many Arabs. There are many Arabs. We just had an Arab speaker here in this town talking about how she hates the jihad and how she wants to move forward with a life in Israel. And we say, welcome. We say we want to accord you every opportunity. But haters can't stay here. We can't have that. We're a post-Holocaust people. Okay? We were almost destroyed 80 years ago. We can't allow that to happen again. And we have to keep our eyes open. This is a region where you can't be a sucker. Can't be a sucker. You can't be like, oh, the international community this and human rights that. Those are all foes, veils to try to get us off of our land. And we are not going to fall for that. We know how this region works. Our brothers, the Kurds in Kurdistan, in autonomous Kurdistan region, they understand the same thing. They understand that they have to be a defensive minority in this region. That's the only way to survive.
There have been reports suggesting that the US government is considering unilaterally recognizing a Palestinian state. What's your reaction to that?
We're going to fight it at every level. We're going to fight at every level. We're going to marshal all the millions of Americans who stand against that idea, who understand that this is a progressive, jihadist, anti-Bible, anti-history, anti-Jewish, anti-Semitic move by the Biden administration. And the Biden administration will eventually fall, and we will roll back on this international type of strong arm bullying tactic. We won't let that stand.
When you say you're going to marshal people against it, what will you be asking them to do?
It's democracy. You get people to rally, get people to vote out. Those kind of people. You push back on them. You push back on them in myriads and myriads of ways. But you make sure that that this lobby, which is on the wrong axis, it's on the axis of Russia and China in Iran, and Palestine, so-called. These are accesses that want to undermine the order, the rightful order of things. And we will push back on that. And it's very sad that the U.S. administration is going against the will of the majority of American people who stand with Israel and want to see Israel successful and strong.
Americans are able to, as I understand it, sort of donate money through charities to settlements in this area. How important is that for the Jewish people who are living here, those donations that come in from the US?
Money makes the world go around. It helps us build. But listen, we have a very wealthy state, thank God, with $500 billion a year GDP. We have brothers and sisters living around the world and lovers of Israel, not just Jews, and non-Jewish lovers of Israel throughout the world that want to be part of the project. It's really something that gives them an opportunity to be part of the growth that they seek to see. So how important is it? It's a blessing, and we bless those people back.
I think I saw that you were involved in one particular quite prominent group, the Hebron Fund. So, I mean, is that just sort of, do those donations just help people like build houses, or like sort of how do Americans help the settlements? How do American donations help the settlements?
Again, I don't like that word settlements. I don't agree with it. That's okay. We call it communities, and we wouldn't want to make it look like some kind of tricky, conniving thing. There's nothing untoward about it. We have beautiful communities like this one, Efrat, and we want to see them thrive and grow. So we need playgrounds, we need schools, we need tourism and education. We need beautification. I am involved in a lot of beautification, just to make things lovely. And so people around the world want parks, want kindergartens, they want school books, and so they help support that.
Thank you so much, Rabbi.
Thank you.
Really, really, really interesting.
Great.
Nice job, Yishai.
All right. That was awesome. Thank you very much, Holly Williams, for the opportunity to answer some of your questions and to thereby allow me to educate some more about how we have to think about the issues around here. That's right. Okay, Malkah. What else is on your what's on your wonderful mind? Anything else?
Well, I'm just looking forward to Purim, I guess.
What's your favorite thing about Purim? What are you looking forward to? Are you looking forward to the Megillah? That's my favorite
I do
part.
like the Megillah. I am one of those people. I am one of those people who gets like a tiny bit nervous about it, and I need to hear a good reading. Like I can't go to a reading that's like kind of okay and like you kind of get it done real quick.
Right.
I can't do that. It has to be like solid.
Right.
But I've gotten my reading stations down, so I am totally excited.
Okay.
I get excited for how excited the kids get to get in their costumes.
Right.
I like to see the kids walking around in their costumes. You can see them all puffed up, feeling so proud, looking around, who's looking at me. I like to compliment random children on their costumes so that they know that somebody saw them. Wow, look at you. What are you, a princess? Like that.
No, I'm a caterpillar. No, that's right. I am looking forward to go to the farm, the famous Arugot farm.
Yes,
with Ari and Jeremy and their families. I'm looking forward to partying hard over there, as that's going to be a lot of fun.
I'm looking forward to some miracles. That's what I'm looking forward to. I find that Purim, I find that the times of year and the holidays are all timeless. And therefore, the miraculousness that happened is something that you could fully expect today. Now, you can't demand it today, and it's not, no one's obligated to give you this miraculousness. But I like the energy of these times, which is if a great miracle could happen to the Jewish people 2,000 years ago, then it can happen today because Hashem is timeless. So he's right there.
That's right.
He's right there in Shushan, right there seeing Esther's face as she's crying for her people. And so I like the energies of the year that we can tap into today.
I like the idea of eating my enemy's ears, but I also like the idea.
Which ears? Like raspberry ears or strawberry?
By the way, is it a coincidence that the Hamas uses the triangle as one of their symbols?
I don't think so.
I don't think so. I think you got Haman ears all over the place. I also want to say that just the idea of eating anything right now sounds good to me, and therefore that reminds me of one of our wunderbar sponsors, which is prohibitionpickle.co.il. Right now, I could go for some that battered broccoli.
Yeah.
Oh,
no,
yeah.
cauliflower.
Cauliflower. You know,
Or as Yishai calls it, white broccoli.
And I love white broccoli. And because there's nothing cauli or nothing flour about it. I guess there's nothing.
It's kind of like a flower.
I guess it is. What does the word broccoli mean anyway? In any case.
Yeah, your hunger is speaking for you. Keep moving.
Yes. prohibitionpickle.co.il. They make the food kosher and delicious for the people. You can go there and order some stuff. Why don't you order some stuff for somebody that you love in Israel today? prohibitionpickle.co.il.
By the way, now it is a good time. Literally, this is a good time to start ordering for your family and friends because it's. I can't even barely say the words.
Don't say the P word.
I'm going to say it.
Don't say it.
Right after Purim is another holiday that starts with a P, and then people get nervous around that time. They don't want to cook their own food, and they just wish that someone would make them like a nice meal so that they could have something nourishing in their stomach while keeping to scrub. So this is a good time.
Okay. Also today I bumped into Aaron of Kosher Cycle Tours.
Oh, nice.
And he was telling me about a cycle tour that's going to go from Jerusalem to Beit Shemesh all the way down to Beersheba and Yerucham. So it's going to be an amazing tour. That is koshercycletours.com. And you want to be looking fancy when you're on that bike. So check out retrowatchguy.com for great watches from the past, alive today. Retrowatchguy.com. It's awesome. There's mine looking right now at my Tuso. And what else? And I want to thank the good folks that make great news happen, both jewishpress.com and jns.org. God bless you guys for putting out great news and putting out the Yishai Fleisher show. Very kind of you. And, of course, we have our beloved organization, which takes you up to the Temple Mount, highonthehar.com. The great MJ will give you a tour. You will not forget. You will understand the centrality of it all. highonthehar.com. And finally, when you're done with the Temple Mount, go back to where it all began, which is at Hebron, at the tomb of the forefathers and mothers, the folks who walked God's path. There's an organization that protects Hebron, which I work for, which is the Hebron Fund, hebronfund.org. Okay, Malkah, just another segment from my discussions. I did what's it called? Not a review. Not a retort. One of these videos that I make.
Response?
A response. That's right. Thank you, Malkah. It's the hunger. And they had on Benjamin Netanyahu. Actually, no. Hold on one second. What video is this? Let me just see this again. Oh yeah, that's right. No.
You've been putting out a lot of stuff, Yishai. It's no wonder that you're confused about which was your last video.
You're right. You're absolutely right. There was a video that I did about President Biden and his. Which one should I put on? Should I put on the Biden one or should I put on the Chuck Schumer one, Malkah? What do you think?
I don't know. What do you think people want to hear more?
Okay, you know what? Let's put on the State of the Union, my commentary on some of the stuff that was said at the State of the Union by President Biden, which I didn't very much appreciate. So I had a few thoughts on that. So here's Yishai's take on President Biden's State of the Union. At the State of the Union, President Biden spoke about his vision for Middle East peace.
I'm directing the U.S. military to lead an emergency mission to establish a temporary pier in the Mediterranean on the coast of Gaza that can receive large shipments carrying food, water, medicine, and temporary shelters. No U.S. boots will be on the ground. A temporary pier will enable a massive increase in the amount of humanitarian assistance getting into Gaza every day.
So a massive increase of assistance, of aid, ostensibly to civilians. But in fact, we know that the people receiving this aid are Hamas and their fighters and troops. And they will control the food and the medicine. And they will be able to last longer in those tunnels. And they'll be strong to fight the Israelis and continue their jihad. So basically, providing all this food is doing the exact opposite of ending this war early. If you wanted to end this war, then starve out those fighters. Make sure that they don't have fuel and electricity and food. And if you did that, they're going to come out of their tunnels. They're going to fight face to face or maybe just give up. They'll bring out the hostages. But no, President Biden here is ensuring that the war will go on for a long time. Moreover, there's another thing this pier could be used for, and that's to help refugees leave the Gaza Strip. And the world helped refugees leave in other conflict areas like Sudan, Yemen, Syria, Afghanistan, and of course the Ukraine. Millions of people left those places and found homes somewhere else, found shelter somewhere else. But for some reason, no refugees are allowed to leave the Gaza Strip because some folks want to continue this war on forever and also want to blacken Israel's image by saying, look, you kill people, civilians and children, but really it's because they are putting them in harm's way, continuing the war ad nauseum instead of ending it early.
Israel must allow more aid into Gaza to ensure humanitarian workers aren't caught in the crossfire.
Humanitarian workers caught in a crossfire? What are humanitarian workers doing in a crossfire between terrorists and the IDF, the Israeli army? What are they doing in that crossfire? What are they hanging out there? I mean, most of the civilians have cleared out. Why are there aid workers there? Maybe they're not exactly aid workers. Maybe they're like UNRWA, international organizations dedicated to help the jihad and the cause of fighting against Israel, who are just donning the clothing of aid workers, but are in fact aiders and abettors of terrorism. So I don't think Israel's got to do more to make sure those guys don't get hurt. We probably have to identify them as part of the terrorist enterprise that's trying to destroy Israel.
They're announcing they're going to have a crossing in northern Gaza. To the leadership of Israel, I say this: humanitarian assistance cannot be a secondary consideration or a bargaining chip. Protecting and saving innocent lives has to be a priority. As we look to the future,
why isn't getting the civilians out a priority? Why can't we prioritize making sure those civilians leave? Many of them have stated out loud. They even have campaigns asking for money to leave, to make a better life somewhere else. Why isn't moving them out of the way so that Hamas can be destroyed, so that jihadists and terrorists, today's neo-Nazis, could be destroyed? Why isn't that the priority? Why is keeping people in their homes and having them being used as human shields, why is that a priority? It does not make sense to me. That sounds like a way to continue that war forever instead of actually creating a situation where the war is finished through Israeli victory.
The only real solution to the situation is a two-state solution over time.
I don't understand why everybody's getting up and clapping. For what? Wait a minute. How did this thing even start, the October 7th massacre? How did that start? Oh, yeah, Israel gave up land to the PLO/PA, the Palestine Liberation Organization, the Palestinian Authority, and they were changed over. They were taken over by Hamas. And so basically we handed over a chunk of land, the Gaza Strip, to Hamas's hands. And then they prepared that whole area as a forward front of the jihad to make war on Israel. So how does a two-state solution going to bring peace? I don't even understand this. We just had a war from the area that we gave away, that we surrendered to the terrorists. Now President Biden's saying, I know, give more land to the terrorists. That is what's going to bring peace. And people are standing up and applauding that. Everybody should be like, I don't think that's going to work. I think giving away land to the jihad is not a good idea. It did not work in the past. It won't work in the future. Why is everybody standing up for this? Is this like the mantra that everybody has to buy these days? I mean, how many more things could you have in this world that you fail over and over and over again? The two-state solution is an endless failure, and yet these people are getting up and clapping. Have they? Is this a failure of imagination?
As a lifelong supporter of Israel, my entire career, no one has a stronger record with Israel than I do. I challenge any of you here. I'm the only American president of Israel in wartime. But there is no other path that guarantees Israel's security and democracy. There is no other path that guarantees that Palestinians can live in peace with peace and dignity. And there's no other path that guarantees peace between Israel and all of its neighbors, including Saudi Arabia, with whom I've...
So how exactly is it going to bring peace to cut up our tiny little land and have it taken over, the highland of it being taken over by the Palestinian Authority, who's going to become the jihad in a second? How is that going to bring peace? How is this a consistent failure going to somehow work out? It's not. And with regarding to those credentials, listen, anybody who's pushing Israel to give up its land is not working towards peace. It's really that simple. And as I said in another one of the videos here, it's really very simple. Let's use a different parable. Let's use the parable of Taiwan. Imagine if somebody said to Taiwan, which is a tiny little island right outside of China, right? And China wants to swallow up Taiwan. And so the solution that we offer up to Taiwan is, you want peace with China? Let's cut up half of Taiwan, this tiny little island, give half to China. Give half to China, and that will bring peace. Well, anybody that has two eyes in their head will start to laugh at that because it's absurd. We understand that China wants to swallow up the whole thing. The jihad wants to swallow up all of Israel. Giving half of it to the Palestinians is not going to bring any peace. It's going to bring more jihadism, more terrorism, more endless war. So let's snap out of this bad cycle of thinking where we think that by empowering jihadists, we're going to have some kind of peace. We're not. Here's a simple and good idea: a strong Israel on its land, a strong Israel in its borders. And then once it's strong and people respect it and understand that they can't mess with it, then after that, we can have peace with the region, with those countries that want to respect the fact that we are a tribal people on our land, just like they're tribal peoples on their land. That's what the Abraham Accords is, and that's what President Biden should be suing for. Sadly, he is suing for policy that's going to lead to endless war. We simply can't accept it. All right, and we're back from the State of the Union.
Truth to power.
Truth to power. That's right. I was speaking truth to power. I was speaking truth to power. That's right. Gee.
All right, Yishai, we better wrap this up.
You know who speaks truth to power?
Who?
Esther.
Yeah, that's
but
for
not.
real.
But Esther, she
does it her way.
There's a lot of you can compare a lot of things inside the Megillat Esther. You can compare, for example, Esther to Mordechai, and there are different systems.
Mm-hmm.
There are different systems.
Esther and Vashti.
You can compare that. That's right. You can compare different systems of leadership, of communication. These are all important things. Esther, for example, Esther made sure that when Mordechai helped uncover the plot against Achashverosh, she made sure that it was in the name of Mordechai. He got the cred. And then she knew how to massage that in there. Like, Mordechai, he really helped you, didn't he?
He is the best.
Wow, he really, really helped you a lot,
Probably want
didn't
that
he?
guy around.
You want to write that down. Oh, that's a little noise. That means that there's
That
means there's an attack on Israel from the air somehow.
Another one. Kfar Giladi, Kfar Yuval, Metula, Ma'ayan Baruch, Kiryat Shmona, Tel Chai.
Oh, that's all attacks on the north right now. That means rockets are coming in at the north as we're talking.
There is discussion, Yishai, in seriousness. There is discussion about a security issue on Purim.
That's right. And I'm hearing that things may or may not heat up in the month of May. That's what I'm hearing. So there's a lot of that. Of course.
We all know that Israel way prefers to have a war in the summertime.
That's right. Who wants to deal in the mud? And I think we should preempt them all, and they won't be able to mess with us if we jam them. Okay?
Not if we jam it.
So I think we should just jam them. You know what I mean? Right before we even start this
with
thing.
our Oznei Haman.
That's right.
With our Hamantashen.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. We should really rain down some Hamantashen on them. Operation Hamantashen is a go. Go.
And we'll have matzo balls
Release.
to back up if
That's right.
Things take a long time.
Okay, speaking of matzo balls, there's one great matzo ball out there, and that's Ben Bresky. He is just...
That segue was perfect.
It's Purim! All right, so, by the way, I remember when we were at a Root Sheva, I remember going on air totally drunk.
Yeah, we went on with Ellie Stutz. We brought alcohol with us into the studio.
That was professional. That was professionalism.
We said L'chaim's on the studio. Do you remember we had a whole Purim play that Ellie Stutz wrote himself?
Yes. I wish we could play that. Maybe Ben Bresky can play that.
You could probably, find it.
Maybe
find
Ben
it, Ben
Bresky can play that. If Ben can do that, that would be great. It probably will be weird. But if he could pull out some stuff from the legendary audio made by Ellie Stutz, that would be amazing. But if not, here's Ben Bresky's audio segment about, it's a montage of different people talking about their personal experience during another Purim thing, which is the Gulf War, which ended on Purim.
Wow.
And we can hear even from former Knesset member Dov Lipman. So here is Ben Bresky with a recap on the Gulf War, which ended on Purim so long ago.
This is a moment in Jewish history. The Gulf War started in August 1990 when Iraqi leader Saddam Hussein invaded neighboring Kuwait. Operation Desert Storm saw the United States lead a coalition of countries against Iraq. In January 1991, Iraq began shooting missiles into Israel. The war ended on the morning of February 28, 1991, which corresponds to the 14th of Adar, Purim, the Jewish holiday that celebrates the defeat of the wicked Haman and the victory of Queen Esther and Mordecai. I reached out to friends and listeners about their personal experiences during the Gulf War.
Well, at the time, I was living in Moshav Modin. I just remember that Purim, in the afternoon, we got a message saying that all the windows were closed up with plastic, with tape, so that no gas could get in if there was a bomb that would fall. We were afraid that Saddam Hussein was going to gas everybody with some kind of bombs that would be lethal gases. So they had everybody in their rooms, and you had to put up plastic on all your windows and tape the plastic to the windows so that if the bomb would fall and the gases would spread, it wouldn't go in your house. And the bombs were coming into Israel constantly. We heard a number of explosions not too far away from the Moshav, but in an open area. The feeling was as if this was something biblical happening. All of a sudden on Purim, that it ended. It was like right out of a Purim story. And they said they could take down the plastic, and everybody just started ripping all the plastic off their windows. No more bombs falling, and it was Purim. It was Purim.
I lived in Carmiel in the Galil during the first Gulf War. At the time I was married and had a baby daughter. One of the first sirens, my wife and I put on our masks. We put our baby into a box, a special box, I think called a mamad. Our baby daughter did not cry. She did not cry with the siren. She did not cry being put in the box. Nothing. Until after we got the all clear siren, and then my wife and I took our mask off. And then she started bawling. I didn't realize I was that ugly. People were worried that Iraq would send over biological missiles. We would call them Abach. Aleph for atomi, Bet for biologi, Ka for chemi. And that's why we had gas masks and why we weren't necessarily trying to get into the strongest places. In the end, they didn't send, if I remember correctly, they didn't send any such missiles. All missiles were just plain exploding scuds. I did shave my beard, even though I'm Orthodox Jewish and don't use a razor. I did use a razor that time. The reason for that was so the gas mask would fit. I was annoyed with Rav and one of the shuls who didn't, but he explained that not everyone thought that they were going to be chemical missiles. And in the end, they turned to be right. I had a good friend, even though he was living in Israel, he was Jewish and very Zionist. He was an employee of the American government. And when the war started, the Americans told all the employees they had to leave now. And it was on Shabbat. My friend, like I am, Shomer Shabbat, but he went because of the Pikuach Nefesh, also because there really wasn't much time to think about it.
What I remember is I just finished high school. Yeah, there was sirens, up and down sirens. Then you have to go into the Cheder Atum, sealed room. You have to seal the windows, because I thought it's biological missiles from Saddam Hussein. So my father, Alav Shalom, he was a doctor in Soroka at the time. He would wake up like 5, 6, and he would ride on his bike to the hospital while there were sirens going on, and people didn't know what the hell was going on. Yeah, I was in the sealed room with my Ima Choreget and the dog. We had to put on our masks, the gas masks, and there was no gas mask for the dog. So we hoped for the best. Yeah, we just stay there until they tell us we can leave the rooms.
I originally made Aliyah right before the Gulf War had started. Obviously, I had to learn Hebrew, so I went down south to the kibbutz Ravavim in the Negev, southern Israel, the desert. And I took my little pond there. Actually, I spent a year and a half there. I was in the Cheder Ochel, the dining room, and I was on the phone with the United States with a family member. She was like, "Why aren't you running to your bunker?" We had already been preparing at this time. Our windows were taped up, gas masks were being handed out, and I was like, "What are you talking about?" The Gulf War had started again. I believe it was in August. Come January is when they started shooting Katyushas at Israel. She's like, "Why aren't you running to your bunkers?" And I'm like, "What are you talking about?" She said, "I'm watching CNN and you're getting bombed." I was like, well, so that's how I found out that we were in the middle of a war. Only 4 Katyushas came in our proximity during that whole period. So we were kind of immune to it, I guess is the word. But we had gone on a Zionist seminar from the Negev to Tel Aviv. The sirens started going off, and all the people from the center of the city and from Jerusalem and from the cities, they were all running into cover. And we're from the Negev. We were kind of shwa laid back, easy. And we went up on the roof and cracking up beers, and we were watching the Patriot missiles knock the Katyushas down. And that was my introduction to Israel, and interesting times they were.
Also at that time was the migration of the Ethiopians. I also had volunteered when we brought them back over here, also in 91. We were meeting them at the airport and handing out food packages and gas masks as well. And that's another little tidbit I remember from that era.
I have two stories about the Gulf War. The first one, I was living with two other guys. We were three single guys living in Katamon. Everybody was stressed out. I said, this is a great time to have a party because anybody who's going to be stressed out won't come to the party, and who needs to see them anyway? And anybody who's cool about it will come to the party and we'll have a great time. And that's exactly what we did. I had a small apartment. We stuffed about 30, 40 people there. And then towards the end of the party, you'll find out in a second why it was the end of the party, there was a alarm, a siren. So everybody had to grab their masks and run into my room, which was the safe room. So it was really, really tight there. And then when the, 10 minutes were up or the siren stopped, everybody said, okay, I guess this is the end of the party. So that was the end of the party. It was a lot of fun. People really complimented me that I made a party during the middle of the Gulf War. Towards the end of the war, I was in Miluim. I was in reserve duty. And this was, I think, before Oslo or something like that. So yeah, it was certainly before Oslo. We were in Gaza. I was in the Gaza Strip, and I was in charge all by myself in guarding all, not of the Gaza, but there was some other small city over there. Like it was me facing this entire city on like a little mountain, and I was in charge of the whole city. It was a little bit crazy, at least that's what I remember. And then all of a sudden I could see the rockets coming in from Iraq and being hit by the Iron Dome or whatever we had in those days. And I said, wow, that's pretty cool. And that's all I remember. Oh, and before that Miluim, we were the Miluimnikim, we were the reserve duty, and we were doing practice in a base of basic training guys. So the basic training, there was an alarm, and the basic training guys all ran into the safe space with their masks. And we didn't even have our masks. We forgot them in our cars. And the commander of that basic training unit said, I'm sorry, you can't come in here because this is just for my basic training unit. So we just like, all of us, Miluimnikim, just stood around and said, okay, what are we going to do now? Basically, that's what we remember. We just remember the funny parts. And at the end, it was Purim when it ended. So that was the funniest part of them all.
Basically, there was all the equipment that we were giving, like masks and incubators for babies to the public, and we went there and measuring like masks to see if they fit. And I strongly remember the smell of the rubber. Still remember it till this day, and that's a significant thing. It was like a mask with a filter in the end, and the incubators were like a tent, like a plastic thing where you put the baby inside and close it. Basically like instructions how to seal the rooms, the safe rooms you have in each house. We didn't have mamadim like safe rooms back then. Today it's mandatory for each constructor to build a safe room in every building, but back then we didn't have it, so they just told us to seal the door around the door with the tape as much as we can to avoid gas inside the room. And my aunts and uncle, they came to my parents' house because we lived in the Samaria and there was not targeted as like the center, Tel Aviv, like Gush Dan area. So they came to us, and I remember them. We were all in the room. In my parents' house, they have like a storage room that we were all in, like all the kids. and we saw like my parents and my uncles standing by the window and watching the rockets going down on the Gush Dan area. Also, my brother was born. My mother had to go to the hospital in Kfar Saba to deliver my brother Yonatan, but I know this, but I don't remember seeing her go. And also back then it was like the most popular costume in Purim was Saddam Hussein in the Purim holiday costumes around the Gulf War.
I was in yeshiva in Israel in 1990. My yeshiva had 120 boys. 70 went home because of the war. 50 of us stayed. I was named to be the head of the sealed room on my floor in the dormitory, which means that every time a siren went off, I was in charge of making sure that everyone had got to our floor, and then I sealed up the floor. It was one floor of the dormitory that we sealed completely. We had tape all over our windows. We had gas masks, and in the middle of the night, we'd have to run and put on the gas masks when the siren went off. As someone who grew up in the United States and never experienced anything like this before, I remember one night we all of a sudden started hearing these booms during the siren. It turns out they were Patriot missiles from the United States that were shooting down the missiles that Saddam Hussein shot. But it was definitely a time filled with prayer and a time where I felt a great identity and connection with the people of Israel. We didn't know it was going to happen on Purim. At a certain point, we thought that there was going to be no Purim celebration. And then all of a sudden, the war came to an end right before Purim. Bayamim hahem bazman hazeh. I remember the feeling with joy of running to pull off the tape from the windows and putting away the gas mask and just feeling so liberated and so free and truly feeling a redemption of the Jewish people as Purim is supposed to be. And we had full Purim celebration with dancing and singing and freedom. And it was the greatest feeling to be able to connect to what our ancestors experienced in the time of Purim, where out of nowhere, all of a sudden, v'nahafochu, they become free from Haman's decree. We became free from Saddam Hussein's decree, and we're able to truly give thanks to God for this miraculous experience. It was a great celebration of redemption and connection, and something that I'll never forget.
I would like to thank those who participated in this special Purim broadcast in this order: Reb Yankala Shemesh, Chaim Roman, Mordechai Fisher, Raz Telchai, Gidon Ariel, Mati Lieberman, and Rabbi Dov Lipman. This has been a moment in Jewish history. Thank you to all who participated. Thank you to Yishai Fleisher. Thank you to all the listeners, and Shalom.
Thank you, Ben Bresky, our intrepid matzo ball. You did a great job there. You're the one and only. And I guess, or maybe he's an Ozen Haman for this. There's always. Do you ever notice there's a carb for every holiday?
Let's think about that.
There's Ozen Haman for.
Yes,
Purim.
Okay.
There's
Pesach.
for Pesach. There's matzah.
Yes.
For
Yom Ha'atzmaut.
Yom Ha'atzmaut is a non-carb.
Hot dog bun.
Right. I was gonna say for Hanukkah, there's of course the Sufganiyot.
Well, you're not going in order. Shavuot cheesecake. Lest we forget. You know Shavuot's kind of coming up. Can you believe that?
Oh, you know that's my favorite time of year. You know that my favorite time of year is the. But
then there's Tammuz and Av, where there's like not carbs or.
Tammuz and Av are beach. Tammuz and Av are beach times.
Well, some of Av.
Yeah, no, Tammuz and Av are awesome.
And then Tishrei is back to
Rosh Hashanah.
Honey is a carb, I guess.
Yeah. All right. So anyway, no, that's matzah balls. Rosh, that's when
no one eats matzah balls on Rosh Hashanah.
We don't have chicken soup and matzah ball? What's going on here?
You're Jewish, so that can be your year-round carb.
You know what, Malkah? That's actually a thing that our marriage is lacking a little bit.
And there's challah every week.
You are not making enough of the matzah balls.
I'm not that good at it.
I think you're great at it.
I'm not. My mother used to make the Manischewitz ones from the box. They were so good and salty and dense.
I feel like we're being Jim Gaffigan here. We're just like talking about food for like a whole hour.
Because we're literally starving.
Hey, that's right. We're not starving, Baruch Hashem. We leave that to the terrorists to starve.
Yes, amen.
And may we rain a flaming Oznei Aman on them and grogger their sleep so that they have to come out of those tunnels and bring back our hostages. They shouldn't bring them back. They should push them on us. Be like, stop raining hell on us.
I want them to free all the hostages on Purim, and I want it to be called like Operation like Wrath of Esther.
Do you remember that remember there was the Stuxnet? It was called like the Hadassah thing. Remember Iran
when we sent a virus, a computer virus into the Iranian nuclear.
Sweetie.
Don't correct me.
That was reportedly Israel. We cannot we cannot claim that, Malkah. There's going to be all kinds of bloggers who are like, Malkah Fleisher released information that only she knew.
Of course it was Israel. Come on.
Listen, it was the...
Who else is going to send a virus into the Iranian nuclear
called
stuff?
Hadassah, right?
Called Hadassah. Yeah. Oops. Yeah, that no connection there.
Netanyahu, what's going on with you? You haven't like given us like a show operation in a long time. Remember when he had all that library of
I think Netanyahu is afraid to stand up in public a little bit.
I don't know. I think he's doing great. I think he's pushing back hard.
I think he's doing okay. I think great should be reserved for when we are really smashing and taking names and getting our hostages back by force and setting up shop in places that used to commit terror acts against us, so that never happens again. That is great.
Actually, I did a video where I almost didn't say a word, and I just had Netanyahu speaking. I actually thought that he was amazing on Fox.
He is an amazing speaker, Yishai.
So you know what? Here we go. We're going to play that. It's just a few minutes. It's important to hear Prime Minister Netanyahu give good strength. He fights back the red lines. And he says we're gonna fight to defeat Hamas. So here's Prime Minister Netanyahu on Fox.
If the president means by that we should first enable the safe departure of the civilian population from Rafah before we go in, we agree with that. We don't need any prompting.
That's not what he said.
Let's make sure that
that's not what he said. He doesn't want you to go in.
I think you have to ask him what he said, because he agrees. He said that he agrees that we have to destroy Hamas is a fighting organization. That's what we intend to do. Look, it's either Israel or Hamas. There's no middle way. I mean, we have to have that victory. We can't have 3/4 of a victory. We can't have 2/3 of a victory, because Hamas will reconstitute itself with these 4 battalions in Rafah, reconquer the Gaza Strip, and do the October 7th massacre over and over and over again. And for us in Israel, not merely for me,
Mr. Prime
but
Minister,
for the people of Israel, that's a red line. We can't let Hamas survive.
Mr. Prime Minister, we don't want to put you in a difficult position, because we know that you have to work with the U.S. I know we're still strong allies. But there's been multiple comments, whether it was a red line from the President of the United States or Kamala Harris saying that we need a ceasefire now. I know there's been conversations in the press about a fractured relationship. Can you tell us about what's going on between you and the president? Because right now, what I'm hearing from the IDF and some of my friends that are going out there to battle Hamas is that they don't have the support truly of the United States right now, and that you guys are being pressured to come off the gas a little bit. Is that true?
Look, we have our agreements on the basic goals, but we also have disagreements on how to achieve them. Ultimately, it's Israel that has to decide. Our neck is on the line.
Are they encouraging you to get off the gas, though, Prime Minister?
Well, I'm telling you that we're not getting off the gas. I'm telling you that we have to take care of Israel's security and our future, and that requires eliminating the terrorist army. That's a prerequisite for victory. That victory is important not only for us, it's important for the civilized world as we're fighting these barbarians. And let me tell you something. I've seen these recent polls where 82% of Americans support Israel in its battle against Hamas. 82%. That's been constant over the last 5 months. So they recognize that our battle is your battle and our victory is your victory. And I'm sure that deep down, everyone in Washington understands that. And that's what we're going to do. We're going to defeat Hamas. We're going to do what is necessary to minimize civilian casualties, do the humanitarian aid, something that we believe in. But we have to destroy this terrorist Nazi army. Otherwise, there's no future for anyone in the Middle East.
I think everyone, Mr. Prime Minister, is trying to figure out what is meant by President Biden, how that defines your relationship. We're trying to figure out what it means by a red line, what it means by what Lawrence is articulating, and what it means when President Biden says something like this on a hot microphone at the State of the Union. Let's listen together.
We got to keep pushing what you're doing on the humanitarian stuff and all this stuff. So
I told him, maybe some people, I said, even now, should come to Jesus.
So what does that mean to you, a come to Jesus meeting?
I don't know. I'm not familiar with the term, even though Jesus wasn't born that far away from here. I can tell you that if it means having a heart-to-heart conversation, we've had that plenty of times over the 40 years that I've known Joe Biden, and over the 12 or 13 conversations that we've had since the beginning of the war. But ultimately, you know, I'm the Prime Minister of Israel. I'm responsible for the security and future of the Jewish state, and I'm supported in my policies. That's important to understand. The overwhelming majority of Israelis support my policies, that we have to eradicate Hamas as a terrorist and governing organization, that we have to get our hostages back, and that we have to make sure that Gaza doesn't form a threat to us anymore. 99 to 9 Knesset members, that's over 90%, supported my policy of opposing a Palestinian state being rammed down Israel's throat. That's the vote we had the other day. So when people say, well, we have to have this talk with Netanyahu because he's holding back the prospect of this wondrous peace with the Palestinian state, you don't have an issue with me. You have an issue with the entire people of Israel. They're really united as never before in uniting to destroy Hamas and ensure that we don't have another Palestinian terrorist state like the one they had in Gaza that could threaten the state of Israel. That's something that the people of Israel are united behind, and from what I can see, most Americans support that as well.
Prime Minister Netanyahu, President Biden's been around a long time. It's easy to surmise, at least here in the American press, he knew he was on a hot mic in that moment. It was after the State of the Union, after all. I'm wondering what that does to negotiations, that message was communicated to you via the press instead of in the privacy of diplomatic channels. What does that do to the ceasefire negotiations? What does that do to the more than 100 hostages being held, including 1-year-old Kafir Bibis, that sweet little baby, in Hamas hands?
Well, look, to the extent that the world thinks that America and Israel are united, that helps the war effort, and it helps our effort to achieve victory and obviously the release of the hostages. To the extent that Hamas believes that there's daylight between us, that doesn't help. I appreciated the support that President Biden and the administration have given us since the beginning of the war. I can only hope that it will continue to victory, because victory is at hand. Victory is close. I mean, we've destroyed, as I said, 3/4 of those fighting battalions. We're very close to victory. The best thing we can do for the future of the Middle East, for the future of peace, for the future of those hostages, is get a speedy victory. And the victory will come as soon as, I think will come sooner, the more united we are, not divided, or at least not given the appearance of division.
Well, I know what you're saying, but with Kayleigh's point, I did hear that you guys had virtually something agreed to with Hamas, and as soon as they see the fracture with the U.S., they said, we can hold out for a better deal since they're getting all this pressure, and that blew up the deal on the hostage for prisoner swap.
Oh, I'm not sure that that's exactly what happened. I think Hamas from the start has demanded just outlandish demands that were nowhere in the ballpark, so they weren't there in the first place. But I repeat it, we're not fighting just our battle. We're fighting the battle of civilization against barbarism. We're fighting the battle against the Iran terror axis, which goes against America. They say that you're the great Satan and we're the small Satan standing in their way. These are the people who are your worst enemies, our common worst enemies. And at this point, the entire international community, at least the civilized community, should stand behind Israel, reject the vilifications and the pressures that are brought against Israel that is fighting this just war against these barbarians. That's what I think is required to do. Most Americans understand it, and I hope that that's what will also be perceived in the Middle East, because it'll help us get the job done sooner. We're going to win this war. Yeah.
Mr. Prime Minister,
yes, and soon.
And I hope you guys do win the war. But there's a lot of concern, not just with the UN, but we got little jihadis running around here in the United States. You got people putting pressure on the President of the United States. I plan on going to Israel next month to be with you guys before the Holy Week. But are you concerned about the anti-Semitism here in America and across the globe? You went to school here.
Yes, I am. Of course I'm concerned. Who would not be? I mean, and I don't think you have to be, it's not only the Jewish people who should be concerned. I mean, anti-Semitism is the canary in the coal mine, because once you begin with this anti-Jewish hatred, you know that erupts into broader violence and disrupts entire societies. I think that this is a real badge of shame for those who are supporting Hamas. They're supporting these mass murderers, these rapists, these baby burners, and they're supporting it against the one democracy that is fighting them with tremendous odds against a terrorist enemy that implants itself in civilian quarters, that uses civilians as human shields, that uses terror undergrounds, as no army has faced. General Petraeus was here recently. He said, listen, no army is facing what Israel has faced. Colonel John Spencer, the head of urban warfare at West Point, says, no army has gone to the lengths that Israel has gone to avoid civilian casualties. So Israel is fighting this just war against the most unjust of enemies. And these people are protesting in the streets, supporting these mass murderers, these modern Nazis. That's it's disgraceful. It's as though you were fighting in World War II and you had people demonstrating in the streets of New York and Washington in support of the Nazis. That's basically what you have here. So I think the majority of Americans have it clear. Their moral compass is clear. They understand that Israel is fighting this battle of civilization. They also understand that we're going to undue lengths to minimize civilian casualties. They also understand that the future of the Middle East, the future of many Muslims, the future of Gazans is dependent on our victory, and we don't intend to give up. We're going to achieve this victory, I hope, with the solid support of the American government, as we've had up to now, and I hope it continues. But one way or the other, we're going to do it.
You got to finish got to go for the win, or else we're going to be back here in 18 months right after this with another attack. Prime Minister, thanks so much. Appreciate the time. Hope to talk to you again next week.
Thank you.
Thank you, Prime Minister.
Thank you. There is no substitute for total victory. We'll achieve it.
No doubt about it.
I agree.
All right, Malkah, we are done. I can only say to you that the Megillat Esther is a phenomenal document. And there's one line that also my non-Jewish friends all know, which is, for a time such as this.
Yes.
You came for this. And I think that line is just true about every single one of us.
That's right.
Which is like...
you have to know that.
There's no greater malchut, there's no greater monarchy than life itself. That's the greatest gift. And right now, Israel needs us, and God needs us, and the Jewish people need us, and the friends of Israel need us, and lovers of Israel needs us, and the Bible needs us. And we just got to get out there. We got to get out there and play hard. We got to get out there and not succumb to anything, and we got to just think big thoughts and go crazy right now with whatever we got. And may Hashem give us strength to know that for a time such as this is why He's given us strength in the first place.
Right. It is not an accident that you are right here, right now.
That's right. Malkah Fleisher, I want to wish you a Freilichen Purim.
Thank you.
A Freilichen Purim. I want to wish you a really happy Purim. And I want to give you a piece of advice, Malkah.
All right.
Go Purim all the way, because the day after Purim, it's beginning of Pesach. So really in many deep ways.
But maybe this will be an awesome Pesach.
In many, many deep ways, Purim is the last holiday of the year. It's the last holiday. It's the end of the year.
Right.
And that's it. And so therefore, yalla, you know
Let's
what I mean?
do this.
Chazak.
Get in there and make my brisket.
Let's do it. Okay, stop talking about food. When is this fast over? Another hour and a half. God bless you folks wherever you are. Lots of love and lots of blessings from the land of blessings. Please support us at buymeacoffee.com/Yishai or YishaiFleisher.com. Thank you very much for all of the love and all of the emails and all the friendship. And we send you that love. We send you the Purim strength and energy wherever you are, whoever you are. If you're with us, we are with you. God bless you. Stay strong, stay connected. Shabbat Shalom and happy Purim.
Chag Sameach.